Right, hello there ladies and gentlemen, it's UK Gaming 24 welcoming you to a short live broadcast. Um, it is quite late when I'm doing this, so I apologise. I'm hoping my mic's okay, my volume's okay. But the reason why I'm doing this quick little live stream is to basically, obviously, discuss the release, just gone off him, of the man, Bray Wyatt, aka The Fiend. Um, just because of how much of a shock it is. Now, there have been quite a lot of releases. Obviously, the Iconics, I think, was a big mistake that they got released because, they were a fun women's tag team. Aleister Black, who is also in this game, obviously, he got released. He's now obviously known as Malachi Black in AEW. I'm sure he'll do really well there. And I just think, have done is appalling. And what we've been able to gather so far from when I've been trying to do a bit of research on this, apparently John Laurinaitis, welcome whoever's here, who is like in charge of talent relations, told Bray Wyatt it was due to budget cuts. Now, I find that kind of insane because of how well his merchandise was doing. I happen to know when his first figure came out in the SummerSlam set about, I think it was 2019. Usually they bring out like a SummerSlam set, I think every year, and there's usually 5 or 6 figures, and including a chase figure. Twice the pre-orders went up for the Bray Wyatt's first ever Fiend Elite. They sold out both times. The first time I missed out, I managed to get it on the second time, and literally I remember the day it came out, picking up mine, going home, looking on Facebook and seeing people on eBay selling it for like 30, 40, 50 pounds. Now I remember that first one sold out pretty much as soon as you couldn't keep on the shelves. And I also happen to know that they had a Firefly Playhouse set you could buy, which was like I think like the bit of a backdrop, like in a shape of in like a box of the Firefly Funhouse, and you got like all the little characters. I did try to look for that because I like doing photo shoots with certain figures, stuff like that. That sold out in less than like an hour, so that was like gone. His shirts were selling well. I personally think my main criticisms when it comes to the Bray Wyatt character is obviously his Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins was a joke. I think everyone can agree that was probably the worst Hell in a Cell ending of all time. And the loss to Goldberg, which we've now obviously found out it was basically Goldberg who said, I have to do it because I want to be seen as the hero and all the rest of it. Now, apparently backstage, Bray Wyatt was somebody who was very like, wouldn't say yes to everything, so a creative would like maybe come up with him for something, whatever it was. It might be, for example, to lose to, I don't know, is that Bo Dallas up there? Yeah, it might be to lose to him or to do something, and if he didn't like it, he would just straight up say, I'm not doing that, or I don't want to do that. Now, that probably could have annoyed a few people backstage as well, but personally, I'm one of those who thinks the Bray Wyatt Fiend character should have been protected. Um, I think maybe instead of him just coming out with this, like, the split personality thing was quite interesting. I think what they could have done possibly is how I would have done it is maybe like kind of almost like an Abyss style storyline where they kind of had where he's got the mask on and it's you know he's just undestructible monster, but when he takes the mask off, then he realizes, or maybe something like that, But honestly, this character was, apologies if I just knocked my mic there, was the most exciting character WWE has brought in quite a while. And I honestly think he should have had maybe like an Undertaker-esque push. Um, in terms of like being this, unstoppable monster who, would win all the time. And if you want to put the championship belt on him, or the championship title if you want, because I know some people don't like using the word belt. Um, then yes, okay, fine, do that. But personally, I'd kind of have Bray Wyatt not go for the championship titles. I mean, not straight away, but having kind of like not so much. You know, if you want him as like an evil villain, fine. But I'd personally have him as somebody who tries to kind of like the Undertaker. He's not. It's a dark character, but tries to stop worse things from happening. You could have booked him however you wanted. I mean, let me know, guys, as well in the comments. How would you book the Fiend? But this is what I don't get. So you've had Bray Wyatt. You had, I think he's on here somewhere. Yeah, Aleister Black. Two of your best. I mean, Andrade. Okay, fair enough. He wanted to go. But Aleister Black. I mean, the thing that gets me with Aleister Black, and I know obviously there's that. It's been said that Triple H tried to get him back as soon as he got released, and they were going to try bring him back in, but because there had been a mistake, he didn't. He only had a 30-day no compete clause rather than the 60-day or 90 days, which is normal. He basically was like, "Yep, screw you guys, I'm off to AEW," and I think that's the best place for him. But the thing that gets me is they released him as soon as he comes back and kicks Big E's head off almost, and it looked like they have a great feud. I mean, it's kind of sad now when you look at games like this, and obviously, you see some of the superstars like Big Show. Obviously, he's in AEW now. Bray Wyatt's gone. Murphy's gone. I think Chad's could be on his way out because personally, I think he's a great talent that's being wasted. Christian, obviously, is in AEW. Axel's been released. Brian's going to AEW. It looks like. It's amazing when you look at this game. You think there are people who could be on their way out who have gone, like Eric Rowan, obviously gone. Excuse me. I think Grand Metalik's gone. Jake Roberts, obviously AEW. Jeff Hardy. I wouldn't put money on him staying after his contract runs out. I think he'll go to AEW with Matt. Kalisto, he's obviously gone now, I believe. Carl Anderson and I know his tag team partner Luke Gallows is in here somewhere. There you are. And the thing with Gallows and Anderson, if I remember correctly, we'll talk about their release real quick. I believe with them, it was the case of they'd been given these big fat money contracts. Like a lot of wrestlers had been offered a lot more money to stay with WWE, so they wouldn't jump ship to AEW. They basically say, here's a 5-year deal, let's say 200 or whatever, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it was each, to stay. But then obviously, when the pandemic came in, apparently, like I don't know who it was. I mean, I think it was maybe Paul Heyman or someone who basically turned to Vince McMahon or the heads and said, "Hey, these two are on big money contracts," and Vince like, "Yeah, you can get rid of them." It's kind of sad when you look through this roster. Mark Henry, AEW. Obviously, this man, he makes it so hard for me to honestly I'm always one of those who will always say Vince is a good booker in one sense. Because if he wasn't and didn't, allow certain things to happen, and if he wasn't like, okay to, with some of the stuff he did and didn't do, WCW would have won the Monday Night Wars, but Vince knew what to do, and he led the Attitude Era, and he had some of the best talent in the world. And of course, there was a time where wrestlers, I remember being told, or watching this documentary, would literally go up to him and say, hey, we want to come work for you. But I think the main problem now is, I mean, I will always respect Mr. McMahon and say he's one of the greatest wrestling the greatest wrestling promoter in terms of like being able to make good money. I know he recently said something about, we'll give AEW more release, we'll release more people and they can go over there. But if you keep doing that, I mean, I'm calling it right now, AEW, if they get Punk and Bryan, their viewership's going to skyrocket. I mean, Akeem and Razor, of course, they're both gone. Ricochet, I think he'll leave. I think his contract runs out next year. Probably the most wasted talent. I mean, he's such a great high flyer. I've always said when NXT a few years back, one of my all-time favorite NXT moments was Ricochet was in a feud with Velveteen Dream, who I know you shouldn't, we don't really like talking about because he was, called out in that speaking to movement or something, whatever it was called. I apologize, I can't remember what that movement was called now. Speaking out. Before that came to light, Ricochet and Velveteen Dream were in like a rivalry. Velveteen Dream said something. Ricochet bounced off the ropes, jumped over the ropes, did like a flip, landed it perfectly. Went up to Velveteen Dream and said, "Show me." And Velveteen Dream just couldn't say anything. I think he dropped the mic and was just stunned. I think Ricochet's got so much talent. It's such a shame he's being wasted. Obviously the only the saving grace of WWE, Roman Reigns. Sami Zayn, thankfully, he's getting obviously best gimmick now. Joe's good. Obviously AEW's another AEW wrestler there. Jeez, look at that Miz. Oh god. And this game, Tucker, another release. Tyler Breeze, I'm pretty sure he's been released recently. So there's the whole thing about will he be allowed on up, down, down still, because obviously that's owned by WWE. And that's another thing about with this game is half the roster are either, it's like Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair, all these wrestlers, they're not even in WWE anymore. I mean, I know we're going back to 2K this year, and I really hope they get a good roster and they get quite a few legends and modern superstars in. I know this is only the male superstars, but I think it's still a bit of a shame, really, that when you go through games like this and it's like I think one of the wrestling games was only brought out a few years ago. I'm trying to remember which one it was now off the top of my head. I apologise, I'm trying to think of stuff off the top of my head because obviously I'm doing this live. So it was in 2K, I think 16, which was obviously 5 years ago. Samoa Joe, thankfully he's come back, but obviously he was released at one point. It was Epico and Primo, they've both been released. Somebody else whose name I can't remember. And I think it was Murphy in the 2K16 pack. They all got released. And in the 2K17 Future Stars pack, it was Mojo Rawley, Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, Austin Aries, and Tyler Breeze. I know that was 2017, so that was a few years ago now, but to say them to be the Future Stars, and then only a few years after that, they've all been shown the door. Bret Hart obviously has done some appearances in AEW. I mean, I know AJ's said in the past, we will obviously finish on Bray Wyatt, but this is just a little thing as well. That he basically said once his WWE contract's out, he will finish. But if I was AJ now and I was sat there in WWE, I mean, I know he's having fun with Omos. I think is it called the newest guy, and he's Raw Tag Team Champion. But I would honestly be thinking if I was AJ, you look at Kenny. You look at the Bucks, you look at the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. You look at everything they're doing. I'm just saying. I mean, straight away, Finn Balor. I mean, I know he's in this game somewhere, isn't he? I'll quickly talk about him before we finish on Bray. He was in NXT, had a great thing with Karrion Kross, which I don't even want to talk about Kross and Jeff Hardy. Don't get me wrong, I like Jeff Hardy, but Karrion Kross should have won that match because he's meant to be this, it's like unbeatable thing. And then obviously when he's gone back to NXT, all the fans were cheering for Jeff Hardy. so it's obviously not good for him. But you know, that's the story I think for another time. But yeah, I just wanted to do this like I said, this little live stream to basically say how shocked and how sad I am that possibly the most exciting character, and the whole thing is that whole. I still wish I would have loved to know what was going on with Alexa Bliss. I mean, had Bliss taken over the powers of the Fiend? Was Bray Wyatt possibly going to come back as like just the guy, the other character where he's there in the Firefly Funhouse? Was he somehow going to try and like I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest I've not always been like in some sense the biggest like fan of the whole powers that wrestlers have, but at the same time I do like it if they're done well. It's like with the Undertaker when he did the fireworks at the Royal Rumble. I think it was with Kurt Angle, and he sent down that lightning and it broke the ring. I thought that was really cool. But I'd love to have seen that story, maybe go more in depth. Maybe it's like Chelsea Green could have played Lily the doll. She said she would have been okay with that. I think that'd have been really cool. But I think I'd have loved to have seen what was going to happen next. Was Bliss going to try and tempt Orton to turn to the dark side and have a Randy Orton with Bliss in her corner? I mean, the way she pinned him, you never know. That could have tempted him. You guys don't know what I'm on about. I think it was at the I can't remember which pay-per-view it was, and Bliss faced Randy Orton. Obviously, the Fiend came back, took him out. Obviously, Bliss wears that like that dress, that skirt. Obviously, sat on top of Orton when she pinned him. Obviously, a lot of people were basically saying, how lucky Orton was to be pinned like that. Except Randy Orton's wife, he wasn't too happy from what I remember. But it's like, could you have possibly had a feud where that's all happened, but Bliss has maybe weakened the Fiend. And that obviously all that blood or whatever it was, all that stuff came down, and have maybe Orton become like not not have his mind controlled by Bliss, but almost like have a partnership with Bliss, and then obviously have the Fiend versus Randy Orton. Because I think we all know Randy Orton's a great heel. I mean, that could have been one way, but sadly it's one of those now where we're never going to know what happens to Bray Wyatt. I mean, could he turn up in AEW? I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get Husky Harris returning. That's kind of scary to think. I think he was the last remaining member of the old school Nexus, wasn't he? So I think now that the original Nexus is now fully... Well, I know Wade Barrett's technically back as a commentator, but I think he was the last one. I mean, that's kind of sad. I mean, personally, I'm glad he got a better gimmick than Husky Harris, and I'm glad, because I think the whole Nexus, when they got beaten, was stupid, but, we won't, like I said, that's another video for another time, I think, but I just want to say, everybody, thank you very much for watching this. If you have enjoyed, please do leave that like rating. Comment down below what you think of Bray Wyatt's release. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Subscribe if you're new. If you've got any like wrestling questions, because I'm gonna do like a little maybe wrestling Q&A, or maybe like a little bit of back and forth with hopefully C Nation Gaming in the future. That's something I'd like to do. But yeah, so please could you all like this video, subscribe if you're new, ding dong that notification bell, comment down below if you guys got any wrestling questions for me, or your thoughts on the whole Bray Wyatt being released, and share this video out if you wouldn't mind as well, because that'd be amazing. And until next time, adios.